Liam,
Vince,
how we doing?
I'm good.
So, my first few episodes, I was actually trying to do like an origin series of what Try Vegan is, but you suggested we get together today, and I was like, Liam's an interesting character.
Yeah.
So, I guess let's start by how we met.
It was the microgreen stuff, right?
The way it really started, really started was I was trying to get an app developed back in like 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
Person who was developing the app for me said, I know someone who's good at marketing.
hmm
And this person had a company called had something to do with a wave, right?
River City?
Was that yours?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. And then I think you reached out when I had the meal prep service. You said you wanted to sell microgreens, or you wanted to tell me about your microgreens.
Yeah.
And then we realized we had that connection, and then we've been friends since. And you delivered microgreens for quite some time.
Yeah.
So let's talk microgreens.
Cool. Microgreens. Yeah. I kind of had a bias against microgreens to begin with because I was working with the Bionutrient Food Association and it's all about the soil, and I'm involved in regenerative agriculture and that kind of stuff, And then I somehow found some YouTube website or whatever, some guy down in Baltimore.
Hydro City.
Right, exactly. He said, well, the everything that the seed needs for the first couple weeks of its life is already, everything the plant needs is already within the seed. And I was like, oh, because I'd had this real soil bias. You needed the soil, and that's where the nutrients are. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe that's not necessarily so. But then we got connected, and I think I was trading you microgreens for
Yeah.
for
For a pack of meals for meal prep
pack of meals,
service.
which was I thought I got the sweet end of the deal. I thought in any
Yeah.
case,
Yeah, no,
it was so
trust me, I
good.
thought I was getting the good end of the deal too, because microgreens are 30 to 40 times more nutritious than their fully grown counterparts.
Yeah, that's what the word is.
So
Yeah.
you got no soil. You don't need to be outside. You don't need to do anything. You just need a few lights,
Lights, good water,
a dish. You got something that's 30 times more nutritious than a broccoli.
and they taste good.
Yeah, well, the mustard ones were quite intense.
The radish especially, I found. Well, the thing is with microgreens, it's kind of interesting. I've sort of come full circle on this. I'm taking this opportunity to grow some microgreens with soil, and here's the reason why. I was involved peripherally with this project called Farm Hero, which was going out and finding all these farmers who are doing great stuff with regenerative agriculture and everything in this area. So they contacted me and said, hey, meet us over there. And I went and met this farmer. And he had come up with this soil amendment that completely accelerates the growth process of trees, of plants, of everything. And it's like phenomenal. And the way that he developed it was through microgreens. Because microgreens have a short growth cycle, right? So they could try different things. You don't have to wait a year for the next harvest, right? It's every 2 weeks you can tweak the formula. So they came up with this soil amendment that I was over there at their farm, and he brought out a tray of sunflower microgreens that they had grown. And I looked at them, and they looked to me about 14, 16 days old. I had a pretty good sense of how long things take to grow and everything. They were 7 days old.
Twice as fast.
Yeah, and they tasted so great too.
And this is a microgreen in soil.
In soil, they were so good and so nutritious. And he had this whole story about how people had been healed, eating these microgreens because they were so loaded with all these nutrients and everything. And I was like, yeah, this is the ticket.
And this is recently.
Yeah, this was like year and a half ago. And here's the thing, and I don't know specifically what he was doing because he wouldn't tell us, but. Basically, what really works is a high fungal soil amendment. Like high fungus, like two fungus to one bacteria kind of thing.
Sounds counterintuitive.
I
'cause
know,
They'd be,
I know.
They'd be fighting for the nutrients.
It's not the way it works though, because they form symbiotic relationships, and it depends what kind of fungus, what kind of bacteria, what kind of minerals. I mean, all of these factors are in play. But high fungal percentage, and then the bacteria and the minerals, because plants cannot eat rocks just like we can't eat rocks. So what happens is there has to be something to break the minerals down, because in a sense farming or any kind of agriculture is kind of a mining operation. We are getting the minerals that we need for our bodies through these plants. But these minerals, they can't go into the root system. They're too big. They have to be broken down, and so that's what the fungus does. That's what the bacteria do. That's what the nematodes and other biota in the soil do. Is they ingest the minerals and they poop it out, and that means that now it can be used, and it changes the composition of it as well. And so the plants know enough that they produce the right kind of sugars to attract the right kind of bacteria and fungi. So that's how they form these colonies and these mycelial network that extend throughout the soil. That's why you don't want to be plowing your soil and all these things, because you're breaking up all of these networks of fungal web, essentially, through which all kinds of nutrients are passed from one plant to another.
It was one thing I remembered about one of our conversations back in the day was how detrimental tilling was to gardens and stuff because of exactly what you just said.
Yeah, yeah.
So the fungus and the bacteria need time to grow and do what they need to do to grow the plant. As like a conventional farmer, how would you rationalize that? Because tilling, in their minds, they're doing a lot of good. So how do you like get rid of all the plants that would grow that aren't the crops that you're trying to grow without tilling?
I know they think they're doing the right thing, but they are releasing so much carbon into the atmosphere. You can see through the NASA photographs that they do every year, when the plowing starts, that's when all the CO2 numbers go up. Agriculture has done more to release the carbon into the air than our fossil fuel industry has. That might not be a popular fact, but it's true.
You're trying to grow plants from the earth, and instead you're just polluting the earth.
You're releasing all this carbon that's been stored. So the thing is, okay, well, how do you get rid of weeds? Well, weeds are not weeds. What they're symptoms of what's going on in your soil. And if you have the right minerals for what you're trying to grow, if you have the right fungal constituents and all these things, weeds become a non-issue. There's this thing called photosynthesis potential. That means how great is your plant at synthesizing? When a plant reaches I think it's 80% photosynthesis potential, it completely changes what it's doing. It now starts releasing all these different phenols and changes completely, and now it becomes invisible to the pests, because the pests are basically nature's garbage collectors. Oh, this plant's not doing well, let's go take it apart. You're out in the forest, you don't need to go and take care of the forest and spray it and everything to help the trees. No, they got that figured out. They're healthy. And so there's not that same kind of trouble. And similar with the soil. When the soil has the right blend of biota, all the biology and minerals, and it has enough organic matter to hold water like a sponge, that's what you've got. That's when you've got the recipe for good, healthy soil. And the weeds, they don't come around, or you plant a cover crop to keep them back, like clover or whatever it might be.
Well, I guess dandelions are a very healthy plant nutritionally. They're a weed, right? But at the same time, they wouldn't know to grow in these soils based on the makeup of what the other plants that are growing there.
Right, because there's this whole network of intercommunication among the plants, like dandelions. You mentioned dandelions, right? Well, dandelions, if you pulled them out, they're hard to get the full root, right? Well, this is one of their purposes. What dandelions grow in soils that are compacted, and so the dandelion actually comes along and kind of breaks that soil up, and then that makes it possible for the soil to be healthier. So dandelions are often just a sign of compacted soil. So anyway, I wanted to throw out one of the amendments that I'm going to use.
Back to it.
Is called soil rescue. This guy, I think Curtis is his name, Farmer Curtis. There's a lot of people doing these kinds of things. I've talked to a number of them on the phone, and there are so many great amendments out there that you can use for your gardening, and I'm going to try this one. Yeah, well, this guy, he went and bought the worst soil he could find, a section with that soil plus his amendment, and then he just did time release on it, and was like, what? Are you kidding me?
I feel like your knowledge is too important to be shelved. in a sense. I feel like you should definitely have your hands in some kind of grow operation, whether that's a township cooperative or whatever, because that knowledge and the experiments you can run are way too valuable to just be in your head. So if there is a community garden in Trenton or wherever, I highly recommend you get involved because I feel like the people who are there would love the information you have more so than me. I don't even know anything about anything, but I'm intrigued by what you're saying.
Well, cool. Thanks. Yeah, definitely. I like to pass the information on, and I also, like I said, I'm gonna start experimenting, and I'll share my results,
With
with
the
with the
microgreens, yes.
microgreens and what I do, and and
Yeah.
tell other people how to do the same thing. I'm also writing a novel right now that incorporates a lot of this stuff. It's a story about the insect apocalypse, which people are unfortunately not really very aware of.
I think most people are happy that they don't have bugs in their backyard.
Well,
It
I mean, you
is,
think about it, we can't, no bugs, no birds, these things,
yeah,
bugs, remember, are pollinators too.
yeah,
80% of our crops require pollinators. We need the bugs. We need the
yeah.
insects. We
Well,
need the birds. We need everybody.
you've been a big environmentalist since the 70s. So I'm sure you've seen the world go from pretty non electronic to very much electronic, and detrimental technology has just exploded. And you were involved in the first Earth Day.
Well, I
So
wouldn't say involved. I just
you were
remember
there.
it. People don't realize, that the biggest demonstration ever in the United States was 20 million people who showed up on the first Earth Day. 20 million people. That was 10% of the population. The population in those days was like 200, 205 million, something like that.
How did the word even get out?
Well,
Just
there
the
were
news.
the news. There were a couple of campuses. I think it was Michigan or something. Kind of started, and they had these grow in learning days or whatever, and it was just a big party, really, and there were
Bunch of hippies.
demonstrations, bunch of hippies. It impressed me, I totally was just like, yeah, of course that makes sense, and then I've kind of thought of myself as an environmentalist pretty much ever since. The thing is, it's possible to do that now because this is something that is a four. One of the big things that's so striking now about when you look back at that first Earth Day is one of the things that everybody was so concerned about was the population explosion that was imminent. Revolution, a four with something four. It's not anti this, anti that. And there's a lot more power in that. And the sad, maybe tragic part of things is that we knew so much already back then in the 70s about where things were going. That's what, were building electric cars. We had gas lines, because of the oil problems, and there was a big push to go solar and all that. And we decided not to. But now we know that it's the reverse. What's the latest fertility rates for the United States? It's 1.6. We can't even replace ourselves. The only reason we have what we have is because of immigration.
Over
Africa
that.
is the only continent in which there is a sustainable population at this point. That's amazing
Yeah,
if you think about it.
Africa is,
The only continent that is replacing itself population wise. Every other continent, it's below. I mean, I forget what Japan's down to. It's like 1.1, 1.2, something like that. They're far from sustaining population. So
yeah.
it's not the big deal that people thought it was. Yeah.
But back to environmentalism and the first Earth Day. So you've been vegan forever?
Not forever, but I'm vegan now and have been, probably for 20 years at least. But I started off being a vegetarian in 1976 after reading Francis Moore Lapay's book, Diet for a Small Planet. And this was kind of on the heels of the Silent Spring book by Rachel Carson in the 1960s, which was pointing out all the loss of bird life, especially due to the pesticide DDT.
Oof.
And so DDT was banned, and and this was part of the big environmental movement. And in the Diet for a Small Planet book was really kind of laid out, like what are the costs of animal cultivation, right? Environmentally, what are those costs? and it really struck me. And I was like, oh, and then after that, I was like, oh, these health benefits are great, because I was an athlete, and it just felt so, I had so much more energy, you know.
That's the ironic thing about people's concern over protein. I feel like protein is pushed way too hard, and there's so many other things that assist in longevity and
Yeah.
physical performance.
Yeah.
Protein builds muscle.
You need it.
As far as like athletic performance, same thing. I went vegan and I noticed right away once I got back into working out post veganism that I just felt lighter. Everything felt easier to do.
Yeah.
I didn't lose any lifting gains either. That was one of the things I saw for veganism is weightlifters bulk and cut. They bulk and cut. I'm like, once they realize the hack that veganism is for cutting,
It's over.
it's like,
Yeah.
but instead it's like, no, I'm going to go carnivore and cut. It's like,
Right.
and the way people do carnivore, it's Atkins 2.0. It's like they're 90% carnivore,
Yeah.
which negates all the benefits of carnivore because you have to be 100%. Or you lose the benefits because you're staying in that state of ketosis. Whereas what I would recommend is go 90% vegan. Because if you go 90% vegan and have that 10% meat, it's so much more beneficial to have that many more plants than it is to incorporate a little bit of plants into a carnivorous diet.
Makes sense.
Because you either have to, with carnivore, you have to either be all in or all out, or else you're not getting the benefits of it. You're breaking your ketosis. I don't want to get too far into the carnivore thing because I'm not, like you said, there's anti and pro, and I'm much more pro than I am anti as far as arguments go. But there's just so much to be said about a vegan diet.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier now than it was in the 70s.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? There was no Beyond Burger or anything like that.
Beyond Burger, I've been vegan for 13 years, and Beyond Burger came out. It was mind-blowing to me, so you had to wait so much longer.
But there were other things.
There weren't.
I'm just talking about like black bean burger.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. In fact, I remember I was living in Seattle, this vegan restaurant, and they had a cooking class that they did, every now and then. And so I took this vegan cooking class, and learned how to make these great, black bean burgers, this potato salad, and all this kind of stuff. That's stuff that I still make. So.
Where were you living back in the 80s, 90s, 70s?
I moved around a lot. After I finished college, I went to the University of Colorado, and then I spent my last year in England at the University of Lancaster because I was an English major. And then I stayed over in Europe for a while, and I got a job teaching English in Germany, and then I went back to the States, and I moved to Seattle so that I could go to the University of Washington and do graduate. And I got a scholarship to go back, a Fulbright to go back to Germany, where I taught English in a German high school. Yeah, I know. It was so wild. And in fact, the school one of the schools that I was teaching at was called Wolfram von Eschenbach.
German is such a funny sounding language.
It is. But that's what first turned me on to this medieval poet named Wolfram. He wrote the most famous and most highly regarded work of medieval literature through Wagner, who wrote an opera called Parsifal. But Wolfram's epic poem, 50,000 lines long or something like that, was called Parsifal, and I bring this up for a couple of reasons. One of the main characters was a vegan.
How long ago was this book?
13th century.
They had vegans back then? Was there a word for him?
No, he didn't eat animals, and he was like the spiritual guru of the hero. It's a really incredible book, and it's one of the things that I'm incorporating into the novel that I told you I'm writing right now about the insect apocalypse. Novels still are related to reality. You can bring things in that are real and to make your points. But humans are storytellers. We're a storytelling animal. Even science is a story, right? These are all stories.
So back to you jumping around. Were there any areas that were more vegan friendly? Like there's a restaurant in Seattle, like you said, but
yeah, there's more vegetarian and vegan food out there than there is other kinds of food, than animal-based food. There's a lot of cultures have rich traditions of vegan and vegetarian dishes. You can't go wrong with beans and rice and lentils and all these other chilies and stews and yeah.
What I like about the Asian culture is they see tofu as another source of protein. They don't. There's
Yeah.
no stigma around it. There's no ew, you're vegan. Ew, it's tofu.
Right.
We just made this with tofu. Here, it's like tofu. Like most people can make tofu taste pretty good. They just don't
Yeah.
realize it.
Right.
And it is simple to make, but there's still ew with tofu
I know.
because they think it's a substitute for meat. And if you look at it that way,
Hmm.
it's not. The mouthfeel is different. The texture is different. Everything's
Good point.
different about it.
Yeah.
So if you're going into it thinking I'm eating tofu, not this doesn't taste like chicken.
This isn't chicken,
Yeah.
right?
It's two totally different perspectives.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But things have changed just so radically, from being a vegetarian in the 70s, to now where it's pretty much anywhere you go, no problem.
I'm sure you got excited back in like 2019 when you were seeing this movement really take off.
It's great. Yeah.
It was, the Beyond Meat IPO'd and Dunkin' Donuts was advertising the Impossible Sausage or whatever it was.
Yeah. I went there and bought them on purpose.
Yeah.
Support that.
Exactly. And now it's gone the complete opposite direction. I was at Rowan last week and I used to do really well at colleges. 2018, 19, right before the pandemic, and even shortly after the pandemic, I would be right up there with a barbecue truck.
Right.
It would just be nice lines. We'd all be busy. And I didn't have a line for like 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. The view from my window was the taco truck, and the line extended beyond what I could see from my window. I'd have to look that way to see the line. And it was disheartening because there's been a lot of pushback to the vegan thing. People have this idea when they think of a vegan, they think of the stereotype, right? But if they think of the vegan they know, it's me, it's you, normal people, and they don't want to be associated with that.
Me neither.
It's been shanghaied by the extremists, which is pretty much everything, every culture. You think about anything, and it's the stereotype, it's the extremist.
Yeah.
Like the word vegan.
Got baggage now.
Now, exactly. It didn't back then.
Yeah.
Like when I went vegan, no one even really knew what the word meant. They
Yeah.
knew what vegetarian was, but they didn't know vegan.
Right.
And when you explained it to them, it just made sense to them. They're like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
There wasn't like the image that pops into their head now. The thing about veganism too is it is tough. Like we take it for granted that it's just something that we can do. And people say, oh, it's wimpy, you're a sissy, you don't eat meat. Like, then you try it. You're weak. You can't do it. It's too much for you because you want your chicken. We need to like push back a little. I noticed I used to just let people walk all over veganism, and I don't have pride in it. I'm not prideful about it. It's just what I'm doing and I want to share it with people.
Yeah.
But when people come at it a little too hard and then I push back a little bit, they kind of soften up a little bit and then the conversation just goes somewhere else.
Right.
I think that needs to happen more because it does take willpower. It is difficult to do. And if you can't do it and you never tried it, you're soft. It's one thing to have tried it and said it doesn't work for me. All right, you've tried it. I give you the credit for trying it. But if you've never tried it and you just write it off, that's unfair. It's unfair for a lot of different reasons. What I noticed when I went vegan was I missed meat and cheese and all that more like an addiction. Like I needed a cigarette. I needed some kind of meat or steak. So I think that's biologically in us because, listen, for millennia, that was a great source of food for us. That was a very calorically dense way of eating, and it helped us get to where we are today. All right, let's be real about it. But now that we are here and we have the option to eat whatever we want, it's better for your health, it's better for the environment, it's better for the animals, it's better for everything.
Well, the thing is, too, look at what you're not doing when you eat a vegan diet. You're not injecting your body with hormones and a greater percentage of pesticides and herbicides and
Antibiotics.
and all that stuff. These new drugs, the neonicotinoids, the ones that are responsible for bee colony collapse, et cetera, they are 10,000 times stronger than DDT in the sense of what they do to the biology. They're that much stronger. And they're also sort of coated on the seeds. But guess what? Like 10 or 20% of it actually goes into the plant. The rest of it gets washed into the soil, collected in hedgerows and other places where the soil goes, and then it ends up in killing all of these insects. That's one of the reasons why we had this insect apocalypse going on, where we've lost 70% of insects since 1970. I don't think we can wrap our heads around how big of a deal that is. And these are valuable parts of the ecosystem, and it trickles up, to the apex predator, the human being, and we're going to pay this price. But the nice thing about insects, of course, just like we're talking about the microgreens, is a short turnaround time. So so you can restore their habitats and their populations pretty quickly.
Yeah, you've done a lot of studying with agriculture. Give me the top three breakthroughs you've noticed over the past 40
Okay,
years or so.
well, one of the big insights for me was understanding that farming is mining and that it's about mineral intake, because our bodies need minerals.
If you're taking a supplement and it's, let's say it's inorganic, it doesn't come through a plant, is your body treating it as a rock as opposed to nutrients you get from once it's come up through a plant?
My understanding is that when we ingest the minerals through plants, they're more bioavailable. The main thing here really is that it's the way that we approach food and nutrition, and it's the way that we kind of over reduce things down to what we think are elements, but it's really not the elements that matter. It's the relationships between the elements that matters. That's the thing. You can't isolate, oh, I need this much this, I need that much this,
It
and
all
so
right.
forth, because it's about the system
Mm-hmm.
and how they all work together, and your body is organic, and it knows like how to work with this and how to work with these other enzymes, etc.
Yeah, that's the thing about falling down supplement rabbit holes is hypothetically, I don't know what the actual ones are, but let's say like you increase magnesium, but it takes calcium out of your bones because you have too much magnesium without having zinc. It's like all these like
Right,
weird,
it's the relationships.
weird things. Yeah. So
It's the relationships. That's the holistic view of health, as opposed to the extraction, compartmentalizing. Or these are organisms, not machines, and they operate differently.
yeah, I think fasting is like the best way to reset that. As long as you're getting, your electrolytes and all that, you get yourself back to that baseline, and then you build from there again.
Yeah,
I think everyone should fast at least a
absolutely.
couple times a year.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be once a month or once a
Yeah,
week.
and you can even do kind of like, these mini fasts. I've done, they work, and it's like I just for like a month or so, I don't eat before noon. That's all.
That's all it takes. It's all
You know?
you skip breakfast, and
Right.
for a while I was doing one meal a day. OMAD, I would eat for like 4 hours,
Mm.
4 hour
I think you were
window.
telling me about that
Yeah,
once.
that
Yeah.
was a nice.
Yeah.
I was able to get down to like a really nice 6 pack and all that. It takes so much to get into the rhythm, but once you're into that routine, you're in it.
Yeah.
Like I remember one time I was at Firefly with the food truck, and it was like a 4 day camping festival, and I woke up that day and I was like, I need to go for a jog. So I literally started jogging around the campground. That's how like into it I was. And then when I'm not in that mode and I'm just flabby and out of shape, it's like I can't even imagine
Right.
walking around the mall.
Yeah.
It's just so different how like the body
Yeah.
can get into a groove, and then once you're in it, it's easy.
Right. It's easy to, you got to keep it's this physics too. You got to keep the wheels rolling.